Hey traders, this is Taylor checking on in. So let's recap the price action from this week and start taking a look at a few things of interest next week. So we'll take a look here at the indexes. We'll look sector to sector, who held up, who got crushed, who's looking promising. So the cues here this week, obviously, this is your recent leadership, and really this market has been Amazon, Apple, and Microsoft. So the breadth continues to shrink there. And you get the Qs hitting a new all-time high this week, and with a little bit of slippage here into the end of today's session and the end of the week, we have closed underneath the 8 EMA. So that does certainly open the door for the potential flush down to the 21. And I think really, there's two big questions here. One, do we flush to the 21 EMA? And then two, is that the end of it? Is this just a quick little shakeout, little reversion to the mean after spending almost an entire month hit +2 to +3 ATR, or if we do hit the 21 and go further, is there more downside to come? So I am leaning towards, unless this weekly squeeze just completely loses structure here, I'm leaning towards, any pullback to the daily 21 or really the weekly 8 EMA. I do think it's a potential buying opportunity here for the tech stocks. So, we'll keep an eye on that here this week. But we do get a little bit of a flush. We hold up. We could be looking at things like Amazon and Google, see if they've made similar pullbacks, and it could be a spot there for that next potential push into earnings. So Amazon has pretty much made the reversion to the mean. So that's going to be high on the watch list next week. And then Google here. I was laughing with Chandler earlier, Google's a beast. In comparison to the rest of tech today, it just kind of minds its own business, holds up at the 8 EMA, really can't be bothered. So I would like some Google here to the daily 21. Definitely going to keep an eye on that. So, start going, well, before we go sector to sector, just a quick look here at the S&P 500. I want to say we got the pullback to the 21. You get a little bit more downside here, but pretty much we've made close enough to the reversion to the mean. So, again, the big two questions here are, does this 21 EMA hold the support before the next leg higher, or is there more selling pressure to come? So I think for a lot of us early next week, that's going to probably be the initial focus. Are we at the 21 EMA, and what happens from there? So pretty much the same story for the S&P and the Qs. A close under your 8, that does open the door for a little bit of slippage here. So we'll keep an eye on those, and then a real quick look here at your small caps. Totally busted structure. Daily squeeze fires short, red 10x bars, no stacked EMAs. Now I don't want to short it here at -2 ATR, but on the next bounce to the 21 EMA, if this doesn't reclaim the 21 and get stacked EMAs, if it doesn't really clean up here, I think the bounce to the 21 could be a shortable one. But at the very least, that's ugly stuff. So it's not doing the market any favors here as far as the move into higher prices. And then I would argue your Dow has a pretty good structure. It did pull back to the 21 here today. It doesn't look like much, because it isn't much. The pullback to the 21, it looks like a lot, and it can feel like a lot when the pullback is taking place, after a push into 2 or 3 ATR. That's kind of your S&P and your QQQ right now. The Dow is more so just kind of in a range, chugging along, +1 ATR, back to the 21, +1 ATR. So no real concerns there as far as the structure goes. And I think after looking at the bunch here, your Dow holds up just fine. Your small caps look pretty awful here, though they could bounce at -2. And then for the QQQ and the S&P, the 21 EMA, that's going to tell the story here, or at least part of the story for next week. So before we go sector to sector, my perspective right now is I'm waiting on a pullback as an opportunity to get long. So as we go sector to sector, I'm looking for signs of bullish structure. I'm looking for squeezes. I'm looking for anything that, if we do come in here a little bit, I might want to buy on the dip. So, from my perspective here, I look at a weekly chart and it's like, man, we could dump to the weekly 8 EMA and we're not putting a dent here in this bullish trend. We could get our first pullback to the weekly 21 EMA since last October, and we're not putting a dent here in this trend. Until the weekly chart completely throws in the towel, I'm viewing any selling pressure here as an opportunity to take some good, clean, long entries. So let's start going sector to sector here. And obviously with technology, right, recent leadership will close under the 8. You could get the pullback to the 21. I want to get long tech on a good healthy pullback here. So whether it's Amazon or Google, those are things I'm going to keep an eye on. So it's your leadership. It is still firing. A beautiful weekly squeeze here. The dip doesn't necessarily have to bring an end to the party. Could be just a dip in the in the course of a really bullish weekly chart. So that's where I'm at here with the Qs. Pullbacks, very likely going to be buying opportunities from my perch over here. Your semiconductors. It's got a little bit ugly here today. Now, you're under -1 ATR. You kind of flush to -2. The 10x bars aren't red. You got positively stacked EMAs. The daily chart's a little bit sloppy. I think where the beauty lies in the semiconductors here is the bullish weekly squeeze. And I really like the setup right now. I really, really like it. Stacked EMAs, green 10x bars, and this is the gift that comes with a little bit of selling pressure in the market. You're getting a pullback here to the weekly 21. That's awesome stuff. So I'm definitely interested here in seeing how the semis hold up next week. And then I'm looking for some potential 60-plus day swing trades, looking to see if this weekly squeeze can't lead into that next leg higher. So with your semi squeezing here, you got AMD, very similar structure. Just an awesome looking weekly chart with earnings in a few days. Makes it a little bit tough to load the boat here. I think Taiwan, TSM, that's a beauty of a weekly squeeze for now. And then obviously Qualcomm, they're all going to fit the bill. If the ETF is in a squeeze, they're all pretty much going to be in a squeeze. So for the semiconductors, I would say you kind of got a nice little reset there on the daily chart. And there could be more downside, but if we just kind of generally hold up here, I think the little bit of selling pressure this week has brought you back to the weekly 21. And that is a spot I might be looking for some exposure. So I would certainly think the semiconductors here deserve a spot towards the top of the focus list. The industrials, this is just okay. I wouldn't go long, I wouldn't go short. You do have a daily squeeze. The stacked EMAs keep going on and off. And, it's a little bit mixed here as far as leadership within the industrials. Caterpillar looks like a disaster. And then on the other hand, 3M here. That's a nice daily squeeze. Firing to the upside. So it's decent. I'm not drooling over the industrials here. But it's not a bad structure. Not a bad structure. Energy took a beating here this week. Right? And this is the thing. QQQ, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, keep dragging that S&P 500 higher. Here's the stuff going on under the surface. Your energy starts to lose structure. No stacked EMAs, red 10x bars, squeeze fire and short. If the market's going to hold up at the 21, you look for energy to start bouncing back towards its own 21. Bring a little bit of relief here to the selling pressure. I'm not going to go short in -3 ATR. I'm also not going to go long here. Therefore, no opportunity in energy for me right here. And the financials are another sloppy one. Right? You got to squeeze, and it's holding the structure, but you got no stacked EMAs. Say it's sloppy at best. Goldman has a daily squeeze, which truthfully looks pretty solid here. I'll give it credit. JPM is sloppy at best, so I wouldn't short the financials here. I wouldn't go long them. I would simply keep an eye on them as just another component of the market that could play a role in the S&P 500's next directional move there, but not too much as far as opportunity. Healthcare, this is kind of a really bullish trend, just chugging along here. No concerns on what the S&P 500 is doing, so it doesn't really offer a good entry. In real estate is another pocket of the market doing its thing. Really bullish. That daily squeeze, the handful of daily squeezes here, really good stuff. Now up here at +2 ATR, not really where I'm going to load the boat on real estate, so it looks bullish. I would need a pullback here. And then I think that pretty much brings us to the majority of them here. Utilities are popping higher the last few days. You're at +2 ATR. Not the cleanest stuff here. So as I go through the board there, this leaves me wondering, does energy and transports continue to sell off next week and put pressure on the market, continued pressure on the market, or do they make a bounce back to the 21, which at least can temporarily take off a little bit of the pressure? For the just okay looking spots of the market, the industrials and the financials, what do these daily squeezes do moving forward? Do they fire short? It's gonna send the market lower. Do they fire long? It could help prop the market up. So I'm looking for those as far as their next directional move, just to kind of gauge the bigger picture here. And then that kind of leaves me waiting to see if this market comes in anymore, and waiting to see if that pullback gives me any kind of viable opportunity on a tech stock or a semiconductor stock. So we know where the leadership has been. We know where the weakness and the sloppiness has been. Now the question is, how do all those things kind of work here in the ecosystem of this game we call the market in terms of the next directional move? So I think your line in the sand here early into Monday's session is that 21 EMA. And listen, folks, it could go either way here. Right? And I'll be the first to admit, when the market could easily do one of two things. Your energies, your transports keep rolling over. Your industrials, your financials join in on the fun and throw in the towel. And your QQQs coming back to its daily 21. Things could get pretty sloppy here for a bit. Vice versa. It's a strong market. Nothing about this chart is bullish. Weekly, daily, etc. It's an uptrend. It's been an uptrend. And a pullback to the daily 21 EMA is nothing more than that. If that's all it is. So I could easily see us hitting the 21, chopping around a bit, shake and bake, and then starting the next leg higher. That's what I am more prone to think happens here. But I'm always open-minded. So, few things to keep an eye on next week. Took a look at the overall market. Took a look there at the Qs, the semiconductors, a few other sectors. And for me, it's just waiting on a pullback. And I think my plate of opportunity could be in those tech names and the semiconductor names. So, hope you enjoy your weekend. Hope you're ready for battle next week. And I will talk to you all in the next one. Until then, trade smart. Be safe.